For this, we will be recording this message, as you all just heard. It's good, you should know that. But we are very happy that you've joined us this afternoon for a wonderful session on how you can connect with colleges that you are interested in. We're going to start with introducing ourselves, and I will go ahead and start. My name is Emily Pacheco, and I represent Loyola Chicago, and I'm a regional admission counselor for Loyola Chicago. What it means being regional is that I'm based out in the West Coast, and that's where the students that I work with are located. I am in the Bay Area. So I work with students in California, and I work with students in Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and students in Alaska, even all the way up there. So I'm located closer to where my students are. And now I'm gonna pass it along to my colleague, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Hansen, and I am the Assistant Director of Admission for Seton Hall University for the West Coast region. And I, of course, also represent students or help students and families in the West Coast, including Washington and Oregon, lucky for me. But I am regionally based in the San Francisco Bay Area, but I work with students also in a lot of different states in the West Coast. So we're so happy you can join us today.
So yeah, today we are here because of an organization called Arrow, and Arrow is a membership organization of representatives like Lisa and myself who work with students in Oregon and Washington. So it's a great organization that puts together lots of wonderful events like this great event this whole week going on, Intro to College Week. As you have already figured out, getting to college is not a very easy process. There's a lot of steps along the way. It's pretty confusing, convoluted, and that's why we're here with you today. We want to make that easier. So the goal today is that you walk away feeling a little more confident about this process and a little more equipped to move forward in the next step. So that's what we hope for you today. These are the 9 things that we're going to be going over today with you, different ways that you can connect with the colleges that you're interested in. We're going to go over these all a little more in depth. I know this looks like a lot of information to go over, and it is. So you might want to be taking notes. We are recording this. You can come back, but who wants to come back to a webinar and listen to the whole thing? I recommend just taking some notes. There are going to be some to-do steps for you today. So we're going to get started here on the number 1. Visiting college websites. So
all right. So the first step, thanks Emily for introducing us to what we're going to go over. So number 1, honestly, this is probably pretty elementary or very obvious. You're going to visit college websites in this day and age. Back in the day when I was looking at colleges and universities, well, I had to go to a book to look at different research and things like that. So luckily for you all, information is very readily available and at each university's websites, but we're going to really help you understand how you can more readily navigate those kinds of pieces of information, how to pull it all together. So on a college website, you're going to learn things like which different majors are offered at this particular university, housing options, campus involvement opportunities, anything of that nature, anything that you're going to learn very easily through that website. So the website can be a little daunting for colleges, but you will have access to lots of great information. Another thing that's really important that you will learn through this process, no matter what school you're applying to, financial aid resources, any kind of resources related to Career Center, and what kinds of internship opportunities might be available at that particular university. That's going to be important for you to keep track of. Also, what's going on with the students and faculty? University websites usually have all sorts of information about that, as well as this is probably going to be top on your list, application deadlines and requirements for applications. And we're going to go into that in a little bit more detail. And then another thing that you want to do is, if you know that you're really interested in a particular university or college, make sure you let them know by filling out that inquiry form and providing your information so that we can stay in touch with you. So that's going to be really helpful for you. And you'll be updated as to new information, new kinds of presentations the university is doing, etc. So filling out those inquiry forms is going to be a really important piece to this process. All right, the next thing you're going to keep track of is social media. So these are various ways that you can really get connected with the university as well. So you'll obviously Facebook is one of the areas that a lot of students use to stay in touch with universities. Students I know don't, many times I hear this in this day and age, they're not using Facebook quite as often. So they use Instagram or even TikTok videos, that kind of thing. Twitter is another popular platform that's used, as well as LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is one that maybe students might have a question about. LinkedIn is really helpful if you want to find out where the alumni are going, what they're doing with their education at that particular university, what kind of opportunities they've experienced or had access to as a graduate of that university. So LinkedIn is also a great resource for students as they're researching universities. And then the school counselor, great resource for you as well. I think oops, sorry, everybody, having a little bit of technical snafu here. There we go. There we go. So these are things that you're going to connect with your school counselor about. Your high school counselor is a wonderful resource for you. So use them. I know that in my experience, I didn't use my high school counselor that much for this process, but your high school counselor or independent counselor, either one, is going to be a great resource for you to get to know more information about universities, and they'll be able to really match you up with the kinds of universities that you might be interested in, universities that have the majors you're looking for, that kind of thing. So definitely reach out to them. Also, they know about different opportunities going on. Maybe they know about visit opportunities at different universities, things like that. So they're going to be able to really direct you in a great way. So definitely use them. And also, you know, yeah, that's all I want to say about high school counselors. So I'm going to turn it back over to Emily.
Great. The next one is college fairs. And over this last year, there were basically all virtual, and you might have already attended a couple of those. And they are actually a wonderful opportunity, virtual fairs, in terms of being able to attend them from the comfort of your living room, which before this year actually wasn't really possible. We didn't really do a lot of virtual fairs. So that's something that's really useful for you, where you can explore a lot of schools at once. Also, there are in-person fairs, and in-person fairs, I find you can even explore more schools at once, because it's usually you can Google them and find out what kind of fairs are coming up. One of the ones I want to highlight in your area is the Pennacac Fair. They're going to have that in September. Monday, September 27th, they're going to be in Seattle. So if you're close to that area and going to be there in that date, you want to look into that. Registration has not opened yet for that. So you might hear about it just through your school or another way, but it's a good idea. You might want to jot that down, that's something you want to look for. A great way to discover lots of colleges and universities in one space. Another person who is a super resource, great resource for you, are the people like Lisa and myself, the university admissions counselor. So depending on the university, there's different ways that that admission offices function. They can have lots of admission counselors. So you might be, assigned to somebody who's right there in your backyard, or they might just have a few admission counselors. So it might be somebody, all the way over in New York who's there, but who's there to help you through this process. So there's lots of things that they can help you do, and you can see the list of things here that they will do with you. Some of these you might not be aware that they are actually there to do, for you, and that this is part of many of our responsibilities. One of those I want to highlight are coffee meetups. Something I do a lot of in the fall and some in the spring is meeting with prospective students. So I travel around, I do many weekends in Seattle where I'm in a hotel lobby and I'm meeting with students who are interested in Loyola Chicago. And I know that Lisa does that as well, and many schools do that. So you can meet one-on-one with an admission counselor many times. And now you can also do that through Zoom. Zoom. So even, easier, you can do it in the comfort of your living room, meeting with an admission counselor one-on-one. So these are all different ways. This shows your demonstrated interest. So when you connect with a university admission counselor, I think it's safe to say that every school has some kind of tracking system of looking at how you are connecting with them. At my institution, we can see when you've opened an email, we log when you've given us a call, we log when we've met you in person. And although that's not a requirement for admission, we don't require demonstrated admission for a student to be admitted, that can be really helpful for a student who's on the admission line or a student who has been waitlisted. There's many situations, or also scholarships. That's the other time where demonstrated interest really comes into play at Loyola Chicago. So really take advantage of the people like Lisa and me who are out there to make this process easier for you. Next slide, please. And of course, visiting the campus. What better way to really get a feel for the campus? And honestly, there's nothing that really can take the place of an in-person visit to a campus, but there is a lot you can do these days virtually. I know in the last year, we have greatly improved our virtual tour, and it is a lot better than it used to be. And I think most institutions have made those improvements over this last year when students couldn't come on our campus. But our campus is now open. Many campuses are open. If you're taking a trip anywhere this fall, anywhere this fall, look at the schools that are, going to be around where you're going. Go visit a couple campuses when you go. And ideally, make a trip to visit the campuses that you are most interested in. It's not a requirement for you to have set foot on a campus before you apply. Many, many students apply to schools and then do their campus visits in the spring when they narrowed that list, that started from 20 schools down to their top 2 or 3 schools. And that can be a lot easier to visit that small number of schools. But there's also many programs that schools put on for you to make it even more attractive to visit on those days. And some examples of those are open houses. We have 2 open houses on our campus every year. Most schools do have that. And that's just a special day when we pull out all the bells and whistles, open all the buildings up, show you the dorms, put on presentations. And we have literally thousands of students who come and visit us on those open house days. Other programs that many schools have, fly-in programs. That's where they actually fly you in. You spend a night in the dorms. You're usually paired up with a current student. So you and a current student kind of get to know each other. They will take you to their class. So you really get a firsthand, account of what is on the campus. So, and then of course, day visits, you can just come and visit for the day. You can visit, if you request, you can visit classes many times. I do obviously have to put a disclaimer, what we can do now is very different from what we could do, 2 years ago, year and a half ago. At this current point, we can't have visitors in the classroom with our students, but we do have tours, we do have presentations, and more schools are opening up to those things. So the last few things I'll say about this, it's very important if you do want to visit a campus, I recommend contacting the campus, scheduling your visit before you purchase your tickets. I have had many disappointed students who have, purchased tickets to come to Chicago, then contacted me and said they want to come for a visit, and we didn't have space. Even more important now because of how much more limited we are in terms of capacity of number of students we can have in a presentation room. So reach out to the school before you make big travel plans. The other thing is make sure you understand what their restrictions or requirements are. Some campuses are requiring that you are vaccinated, even just to come for a presentation or a tour, while other campuses that's not required. And other campuses, you actually just can't do a tour or a presentation at this time. So start with the admission office. Usually their website will have this information laid out, very clearly. It is dynamic. It's changing every week, the requirements of who can be on campuses. So check that. Reach out to the campus, talk to your admission counselor, just make sure you get all of that squared away, and then buy your plane tickets and come visit us.
Great. And I would also add too that day visits, even though you might not be able to sit in on a classroom during a class and meet the professor that way, sometimes universities can make it available so that you can do it virtually. So there might be that opportunity as well. And this is one reason that you want to stay connected with folks like Emily and myself, because we kind of know what's happening. We know the pulse of the university. We know what's happening day to day. We know what the restrictions may or may not be. So we can let you know those kinds of details as well. So this is why, of course, leading into the next slide, university connections. So keep connected with your admission counselor, as Emily mentioned, but also we can help you connect with current students. So we're kind of like a conduit, if you will, or a liaison for you to connect with current students. You can also, many times you'll find these opportunities out through us or through your high school counselor. Find out about panel discussions that might be going on at different universities so that you will hear about, let's say, what are students doing in this particular program or major of program of study or major. So you'll have opportunities to hear those kinds of things. You might hear about opportunities to hear about students talk about what opportunities are available as a student there for clubs and organizations or volunteer organizations, things of that nature. So important to keep connected that way. Also, there are opportunities many times to connect with faculty or professors of a certain area. So again, reasons to stay connected with your admissions counselor from that university that you're working with. We can actually help make those kinds of connections happen with faculty and or professors. Advisors that are available, different staff members on campus, so other admissions folks on campuses at universities are going to be really helpful. And then also alumni. So there might be opportunities for you to meet or talk with alumni either in person or virtually. And these are really great ways you can get to know the university better and just ultimately find out if it's going to be a good fit for you, right? So that's the main goal. You want to make sure you're going to be spending those next 3 to 4 to 5 years at a place that you really love and that you can really be connected with going forward. All right, and then I'm going to cover a little bit of information about various applications. So we have different schedules for applications. You might have heard this already, but if you're not familiar, we'll go through it real quick. So early decision is an application that means you've filled out an application usually at the beginning of the application process. So early decision deadlines are usually those that come in October and November, typically October 1st, October 15th, etc., November 1st or November 15th. If you apply early, I'm sorry, I'm talking about early action. Early action is a non-binding application. So it means that you're expressing your interest in a university by applying earlier rather than later, but it's not binding. So you're not actually committed to that university if you are admitted. Early decision, however, means that you really want to only pick one university to apply to early decision. This means that when you apply early decision, if you are admitted, you are really promising that university that you are going to be enrolling once you get admitted. So these are your more, high on your benchmark or high on your choice list of this is where I really want to go. This is my number one choice kind of university that you'll want to apply to early decision. And then regular decision is a university that offers this. Many times universities will offer different application deadlines. Regular decision usually is somewhere in the new year. So it'll be not in your senior, in the fall. Usually it falls somewhere in February or March. And those decision deadlines are, again, not binding, but they're a little bit later so that you can apply regular decision. Typically, many students do if they're kind of behind the curve in getting ready to apply, and they're a little bit behind the 8 ball, and they're thinking, I better apply now because I finally got my choices together. Or maybe they're not really sure where they want to go just yet, or they found out about a university a little bit later on in the process and they want to apply. So that's a regular decision application. Other application information. So these various kinds of application you might be familiar with. Common App is the most common. I believe, I can't remember how many universities use it, but quite a large number of universities now use the Common Application. Coalition application, a smaller number of universities are using Coalition application. Good thing to be aware of, though, in case a university is requesting the Coalition application. And then another application that can be used by university is what's called the institutional application. So that means that if that particular university has their own application available that you can use instead of the Common App, they will let you know that as well. And so those are the three different choices that you usually will find out there when you're applying to universities. So again, the benefits to applying early, you'll know earlier on if you are admitted or not admitted, or you're put on the wait list, things of that nature. You also may receive priority consideration for scholarships. So if you apply earlier, it might be to your benefit because a university might have more money in the pot, so to speak, to give out for scholarships, which may be decreased as time goes on. So if you are particularly interested in a university, that shows them that you're very interested as well. So it's another way to show demonstrated interest. And then you might get access to various social media platforms that university uses once you are an admitted student. So these are all things to just keep in mind as you're getting ready to apply. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Emily to go through your to-do list.
Yeah, and before I start on that to-do list, I want to jump back, just not in the slides, we can stay on this slide, that's great. But Lisa talked a little bit in step number 7 about connecting with current students. And I want to stress that one. I have to tell you that I do a presentation, usually about once a week, a virtual presentation for students to come, and we have current students join us for that. And we do a presentation and then we do a panel afterwards. I learn something every time I listen to the current students, and what they share is so valuable. It's really much more of kind of how the campus feels and what's the culture of the campus and what is it like to be there. And those are things that I, as an admission counselor, can't always clearly get across. I know the school backwards and forwards. I really do a great job of helping students learn to know the campus better. But there's something about talking to a current student, listening to a student panel, or talking, same with alumni, that can really give you a different sense of a campus. So I just want to stress that. I think almost every school does some, multiple events where current students are a part of them. We have them both in person and virtual. So just make sure to make that a part of what you do, especially for the schools that you're most interested in, that you're really diving deeply into. Okay, this here, we are onto our homework page. So you probably didn't show up here knowing that you were going to have 8 points of homework when you left. But of course, these are not pieces of homework that you're going to do immediately. Many of these are going to take, you're going to be working on over the next few months. So I'm going to quickly go through these, but all of these are steps that you need to take if you're going to be successful at this process. You really can't skip any of these. So, many of you are here probably as rising seniors, maybe some rising juniors, and great if there's sophomores here as well. You're really starting early. Go talk to your high school counselor. It's college counselor. It's never too early to start getting to know him or her, to asking him or her what they recommend at this step where you're at, what sorts of things you can be doing. Actually, the earlier you do this, the better. The more confident you're going to feel about the process, and the more prepared you're going to be when you are a senior. And for you rising seniors who are right now kind of quivering because you don't know the name of your college counselor, that's okay. It's not too late. Just do this as soon as possible. Go in there, figure it out, who they are and where you should be at. Make sure you have a balanced list of schools where you're applying. Many students, this ranges from maybe 3 schools to, I've heard of students having 15 to 20 schools on that list, where they end up applying. That seems like a very, very large number to me. Something more like 7 to 10 is manageable, I think. And what we mean by balanced is that they shouldn't all be the top schools. If your list is Stanford, Yale, Berkeley, Harvard, and UC Berkeley and UC Davis or UCLA, you need some other schools on that list. That's not a balanced list. So we can do a whole presentation on what a balanced list looks like, but for now, that's what I'll leave it at that. Your letters of recommendation, you're going to need them. Start thinking about who you're going to ask for those letters. So who are you going to go to to ask for that letter? That usually it has to be a high school teacher, one of your professors, and your high school counselor. Generally, there is a 2 letters of recommendation required, but it differs school to school. Every school is going to want you to either list the activities and extracurriculars that you have done or create a resume. And I always stress with students, make a resume. This is something you are going to need. You're going to, when you're looking for a job on campus, they're going to ask you for your resume. This is something for the rest of your life that you're going to, be building on it. So it really pays off to create that resume now. There's no one format. We're not looking for a specific format in a resume. If you Google college resume, you're going to find 8 billion examples, and many of them are going to be great. The most important thing is that it's readable, that it's clear, and that it has everything that you want us to know that you did. One of the things I really recommend in this is talk to the people that know you best, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, your babysitter, whoever really knows you. Have them look at that resume, because I bet you're missing a few things there. You might not be including that you took care of your brother one summer, the childcare job you had, other things that you just think you aren't important that should be on that resume. So talk to the adults that know you best. Essay. This is something you're going to want to spend some time on. The earlier you start it, the better. It's not something that's going to take weeks and weeks of your time. Generally, I find that the anxiety around the essay is much more time consuming than the actual writing process. So I think getting started early actually can diminish that anxiety, because you actually see, okay, this is what the process is going to look like. I can do this. All right, this is totally manageable. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be if you're procrastinating and trying to do that the week before your application is due. That's not the best time to start your essay. And I'm saying that even if you're a great writer, because the thing about the college essay is very few of you have ever done this kind of writing. This is very different than the kind of writing you do academically in school, your research papers, your English literature papers, your AP bio paper. This is totally different. This is an introspective piece of writing where you are talking about how something challenged you or changed you. And it really takes a different kind of thinking process in this kind of writing. So start early, take advantage if there's any essay writing workshops offered by your school or by your community. You can Google essay writing workshops and find some great tutorials, even just on YouTube, and find some wonderful organizations that even are offering a lot of free resources to you. Take advantage of those. Have someone, before you submit it, make sure somebody looks at it to make sure you don't have any errors in it. That's important. Do those edits, and then you submit that application and you're done. So that's coming up for you rising seniors. That's that date when you're submitting that application. So that's pretty exciting. So you've done all these steps, and you should, be pretty successful in this process. Lisa, back to you.
Okay.
Oh,
great.
no, it's me.
Yeah, but thanks, Emily. No, I think that was very comprehensive. One thing I wanted to say was something that you might hear in other presentations this week, or you might have heard from others, is, it might be helpful for you to make a spreadsheet or a chart or something of that nature to really keep track of all those deadlines, all of those features, and whatever you want to, details about each university. And so you don't get kind of lost in all the details. It helps you kind of remember, okay, this is what I learned about X university versus Y university. And these kinds of, some kind of a document that really helps you manage all of that, especially if you are applying to multiple universities, is going to be very, very helpful. So
thank you, Lisa. I also want to add, on that spreadsheet, make sure you include the contact information for each college admission counselor. You are going to have questions all along the way, and the questions you have today are going to be very different from the questions that you're going to have in October, which are going to be completely different from the ones you'll have in January, when February, when you hopefully get your admission letter. So have that straight. You don't want to be trying to figure out each time. You don't ideally want to be sending emails to a general admission box. That's okay right now if you're at the beginning stages of the search, but pretty quickly you should know who at the university is the right person for you to be reaching out to, and start building a relationship with that person. The last thing I want to say, because it's just thinking of doing contacting people, make sure that you're checking your email. That's really, really important in all this. We are emailing you. Make sure you have an email system set up. Make sure that if you are interested in a school, that you're opening that email, that you're finding that email, that you're looking at that information. If you're not interested in a school, unsubscribe from that school. You're going to get 800 million emails from that school until you unsubscribe, and that's just going to make your inbox confusing and and make you miss stuff. So highly recommend just figure out a system now for you in terms of organizing your inbox. All right, Lisa, can I start on this or anything else you want to add? All right, we're going to take just a few minutes each of us to tell you a little bit about our institutions, because we wear two hats today, right? We are wearing the hat of Arrow, members of Arrow who are here to help you in this admission process and make it easier for you. We also wear a second hat. We represent our universities. So we're also hoping that you walk away knowing more about each of our institutions. And ideally, if you are interested in one of these, that you are on our, that you're getting info from us, you're getting our emails, and that you're aware of what we're doing and events that are coming up. So this is a little bit about Loyola Chicago by the numbers, as I say. We are a very undergraduate heavy university. So you see our total enrollment there, but we have just over 12,000 undergraduate students. So that makes us a really solid mid-sized university, much smaller than a big research institution, but bigger than a small liberal arts school as well. Being that size, we offer a lot of majors, but we also offer a very individualized attention. We have very small class sizes. Maybe the biggest class that you'd have is going to be about 75 or 80, and that's just going to be your intro classes, generally your first or maybe your second year. We are in Chicago, so it's an awesome place to study right on the shores of Lake Michigan. That's our Lakeshore campus that you're seeing there. That's our main campus that we have, where most of our students live, where we have all of our sporting events take place here. And most of our programs are here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the second campus that we have in Chicago, but this campus here right on the shores of Lake Michigan is where you'd be spending the majority of your student life. And you'd be living there your first 2 years. Our students do live on the campus. It is a residential campus for your freshman, sophomore year, and then junior, senior year, it's up to you if you stay on the campus, or many students just move close by or move to the neighborhood in Chicago with their favorite restaurant. Public transportation is really easy in the city, so it's very easy to get around even if you don't have a car. So most students do live on the campus those first 2 years, and I think that's important to know, especially when you're coming from further away, that the campus doesn't get quiet when classes get out or on the weekends. The students are staying. California is actually our third represented state. Students from the West Coast are not going to be going home on a weekend or even on long weekends. It can be very, hard for them to go home. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, something that makes Loyola Chicago really unique is that we actually have two campuses in Chicago. So we have what I kind of consider typical liberal arts campus, the one that was in the previous slide, and also the pictures that are in the top of this slide. That's just about 35 minutes from downtown Chicago to the north in Rogers Park, Evanston neighborhood. A very beautiful area of Chicago, very safe area of Chicago. And it is just, we've been there forever. So we've got this beautiful piece of land with beautiful, very kind of typical liberal arts campus. But we have a second campus, our urban campus, right in the heart of downtown Chicago, 6 buildings across 3 city blocks. So our students really see it as the best of both worlds. Very easy to get between the campuses. We have a shuttle that goes back and forth every 20 minutes, but you could also jump on a train or a bus, and all students have a pass for public transport. So our students definitely see this as a benefit, having these two campuses in the heart of Chicago. I mentioned over 80 different majors. I'm definitely not going to go through each of them today. These are the different schools that we have on the campus. One thing I just want to mention is we are very flexible in terms of declaring your major. The only direct entry program we have is nursing. What that means is if you're interested in nursing, you have to apply up front. You can't be granted admission after the fact. The other programs, you could come in as an undecided student and declare your major by the end of your second year. And even if you come in, let's say, as a psychology major, and then you discover that you are more interested in business finance, you can also make those types of changes, even between schools. The campus is very dynamic outside of class. We are a Jesuit university, and I can't go into everything of what that means, but the basic thing I'll tell you is that we believe that what happens outside of the classroom is just as important as your academic experience. We believe in taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. So you're going to find just a lot to do on the campus, many organizations as well, lots that you can get involved in on the campus. And I think I can hand it over to Lisa. I do want to say, if there's any questions that you guys have, we should have mentioned this, you can put those in the chat box. Those will come directly to us, and we will only be the only ones that see those questions, and we will have a little time here at the end to answer them. I'm going to pass it on to Lisa here.
Great, thank you, Emily. So yeah, so Seton Hall, that's my school I represent, Seton Hall University. We are also a Catholic university. We are a mid-sized school, so just over 6,000 students for undergrad, 4,000 graduate students. We're quite diverse for our size, 45% diversity rate, as you see here. Very similar in some ways to Loyola Chicago, actually, with our population, and also a little bit smaller as population goes, but diverse. So we have over 90 different programs and majors that we offer, and our average class size is a little bit smaller, 21 on average for class size. Again, our largest classes also would be those beginning courses that you'll take as a freshman, maybe your biology, lecture hall, that kind of thing. Those might get up to 75 to 100 students as well. So we have a number of different schools and colleges which house all of our majors. Arts and sciences, you'll see communication and the arts, very popular with students coming from the West Coast with our access to New York City. One of the things that really is a benefit to students coming from all over the country, but especially that come from different areas that aren't familiar with Seton Hall, we're located in South Orange, New Jersey, which is actually a suburb of New York City. We're only 14 miles away and about a 30-minute commute by subway or train into Manhattan. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. We live in a nice little village called South Orange, and you can hop on a subway in it's about 10 minutes a walk to get to the subway station from our campus, be in Manhattan in 30 minutes. So if you don't want to live right in the city, but want it in your backyard, it's a great combination. So therefore, communication in the arts is a very popular area for students to study, coming from everywhere, just because we have some great opportunities for internships and employment after you graduate, if you are close to New York City, which I'll get to in a second. We also have a School of Education and Human Services offering elementary ed, secondary ed, special education. We have direct entry nursing. We also have a great School of Diplomacy and International Relations, which is offering an exclusive alliance with the United Nations of America. So many of our students in this particular area will do internships with the United Nations, with various governmental organizations, as well as like the FBI, the CIA, the Secret Service. Many go into private service, private opportunities as well as public service. Then our Stillman School of Business, we are ranked #1 in the country for our business leadership program, again, offering some great opportunities for internships. We also offer a mock trading room where students can work with a real fund of money to do trades. As if they're on Wall Street, they can become Bloomberg certified to go and work right on Wall Street once they graduate. We have a market research center. We also have a sports polling center where we have a connection with ESPN. We conduct various sports polls for ESPN, and those results are broadcast through various media outlets going forward. Health and medical sciences, we offer, in addition to nursing, we offer dual degree programs for athletic training. So that's a 5-year program. 6-year programs for physician assistant, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech and language pathology. And then also Seton Hall has a great law school. So we do offer dual degree programs into law too. For that, students can study either business, political science, social work, and I'm forgetting a couple, but our law school is quite highly acclaimed as well. So one of the things Seton Hall is well known for, internships. So we really focus on outcomes. We've been ranked #4 in the country for providing internships to students. this is just a really tiny handful of internship opportunities that students have enjoyed coming from Seton Hall. Very high employment rate coming out of Seton Hall. And our mid-career earnings is 50% higher than the national average. So all of these internships provide great experience opportunities for students. So when they graduate, they can say, yes, indeed, I do have experience. I'm ready to go and hit the ground running with whatever career they're looking into. So on average, over 80% of our students complete between 3 to 5 internships before graduating. And then lastly, some of the new things that we're offering at Seton Hall, we have a brand new interprofessional health sciences campus. One of the dual programs I forgot to mention was our brand new BS to MD program. So that's a bachelor's to medical school. We do have a brand new medical school program. We also have the Leadership Institute, known for our business leadership, but now we offer leadership opportunities for all different programs across the campus. So this gives you mentorship and coaching opportunities, professional coaching opportunities to really get you started in your career. And then we have an engineering program where we partner with the Stevens Institute in Hoboken, New Jersey. So this offers a 3+2 or 5-year dual degree program into engineering. In this, students will get their bachelor's and master's in 5 years for a lot of different types of engineering. We're also, just like Loyola Chicago, we are part of the NCAA Division I athletics. We have 14 different Division I athletic teams. We are also, like Loyola Chicago, kind of known for men's basketball. So you might see us on TV in that regard, but lots of opportunities for students to have a lot of fun in clubs and organizations, as well as intramurals, et cetera. So that's a little bit about Seton Hall. And we are really excited to help answer your questions now. So if you do have questions, again, this is our contact information. If you have questions, we're happy to answer those. If you want to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a second. I don't think I have any more to offer you there, but either put your questions in the chat or raise your hand or unmute yourself. Any way you want to do it is fine with us.
I've also put a few links, and maybe Lisa might hear it too as well, especially if you take off your contact information. I've put a few things into the chat here. So you can, I put that because it's easier to copy and paste from there. So one of the steps that we talked about today was making sure you fill out inquiry cards. In the virtual day and age, we also have virtual info cards. And this is my virtual info card. So if you were interested, oh, I think that was direct message. Sorry, let me put it to everyone. If you are interested, just make sure you fill this out, because that will make sure that you're getting the information and finding out about future events that Loyola Chicago is having. And I talked about talking to current students. We have an email address and a text line set up that you can send questions directly to students. So I put that in there as well. So we have a question that did come in here. So the question was about honors programs. So is it beneficial to apply to honors programs? You know, what should I do it or should I not? I have a few things to say on that, but I'll let Lisa start.
Yeah, a great question. So I think that the honors program, we offer one at Seton Hall. I'm sure Emily does too at Loyola Chicago, but I think the honors program, depending on the university, offers various benefits. I can tell you specifically for Seton Hall, our honors program, you take a different core curriculum than the other students. And so you're in the honors program with all the students in the honors program. So right there, you have your own special cohort of students that you are getting to know very well through that honors program. And our honors students get opportunities to go on various field trips and study different things. And really, sometimes the honors program obviously can be a little bit more rigorous, but students that want to do it usually have a really high demonstrated interest in doing an honors program, and they learn a lot of new and different exciting things. So I'll hand it back over to you, Emily.
Yeah, everything Lisa said is very similar at Loyola Chicago. It is for us a very competitive program. So we often have to just let students know, like, you can apply, but it is a small number of students who apply who actually get into the honors program, which it is a very, it's a special group of students. And I think that's one thing that students are very attracted to, that you're going to be with very motivated students that really want to be a part of this of this group. At Loyola Chicago, you live together. There are weekly lunch speaker series that they do. There's a final project that you do. And then just as Lisa said, you take a number of core courses together. So there's certain classes that are only open to honors students. One thing I do want to say is, at least at Loyola Chicago, the honors program is not tied to admission to Loyola Chicago in any way. We don't know if you are going to apply for the honors program when we're looking at your application for undergraduate admission. That is a later process. So students apply first. If they are admitted, then they can decide if they want to join the honors program. So just keep that in mind. This is just something that you're going to decide if it's personally a good thing for you. At Loyola Chicago, you can apply, and if you're admitted to it, you can decide you don't want to accept the place as well. So that's something you can think about. You're more than willing to apply to the honors program and then decide later. That's good. Anything else, Lisa, do you want to add?
No, not right now, but thanks.
Okay, great. Let's see. Feel free to send in. I thought one question came directly to me here. Question came to me about being test optional. Lisa, this is a good one. Test optional, should we still submit test scores?
Okay, back over to me. So it really depends. So if a school is test optional, this is another reason you really want to get to know your admissions counselor well, because they're going to let you know, is that score going to really help you be more admissible to a particular program, or is it not? So there may be a decision that you want to make in terms of submitting your test scores versus not submitting them, because sometimes it can work in your favor. The other thing that can really help if you submit your test scores is, if let's say you do pretty well, that could mean that you would get a higher or sometimes a larger academic scholarship if you have done very well academically. And let's say you just have a mid-range, let's say you're in the 3.2 to 3.5 GPA range, but your test scores are phenomenal. So that could really, really weigh in your favor. So this is what I'm going to tell you about test optional, to get started is really stay in touch with the university, whether it is someone that you don't know from the admissions team or your specific admissions counselor. And I'm going to pass it back over to Emily.
Yeah, that was great, Lisa. The only thing I would add is that for us, we say it's optional. It truly is optional. I think a lot of students think that this is like a trick schools do, where we say it's optional, but then you are docked points for not submitting it. That does not happen. And I really feel that's across the board. We say it's optional and it's really not going to negatively affect your application. But as Lisa pointed out, it could positively affect. So talk to your high school counselor, look at your scores, look at the mean scores of admitted students. That's really important. If you are, deciding, should I submit it, should I not? What are the scores of other admitted students at the school where you're looking at submitting these scores? So yeah, just keep that in mind. I have a question that also came in here to me about, I've reached out to a faculty member and he has not responded yet. What should I do? And I think this is a great question. I get this a lot from students. I'll get an email to me saying, hey, I reached out, or they haven't responded. Faculty members are notoriously bad at email, and they're very, very dedicated to their students. They're very, very dedicated to their staff. Unfortunately, they're not always as dedicated to prospective students. And that's what the admission office is here for. We prioritize prospective students. So if you're not getting a response, reach out to your admission counselor, forward your email to your admission counselor, and that email that you sent to the faculty member, it might be something that we can help you with, or if it's something that we do need to get faculty input, they are a lot better when we poke them and ask them to provide a little bit of input. So just keep that in mind. It's great to reach out to whoever you want to on the campus, but reaching out to them doesn't mean that they're going to respond, but we will as your admission counselor. There's been a lot of really great links put into the chat box. I just want to highlight that. One of the really great ones, there's actually a fee waiver code for Seton Hall here, so make sure to get that down. Loyola Chicago, we don't charge for the admission for applying, so it is a free admission process. But make sure to copy those down as soon as we go here. Those will disappear, so just copy those down. This might be the last question. What would you recommend for upcoming juniors to start preparing for college? And I'll let Lisa start this one.
Okay, I would say for juniors, it's never too early, right? If you are able to make trips to the specific universities you have an interest in, or even just to get to know an area and see if that really appeals to you, and the universities in that area, if you're able to do that and go for tours, definitely do that. I know Seton Hall, we've been great about offering tours for almost all of the time in the last year and a half. But we had to, like Emily mentioned earlier, we did have to limit capacity somewhat. So go for tours, get to know the various universities by visiting their websites, getting to know a little bit more about the various programs that they offer, what really makes them stand out, that kind of thing. And of course, if there are opportunities for you to do college fairs or either in person or virtual, you want to take advantage of that. I was very excited to know that the PNACAC fairs, I mean, so far are going to be offered in person. So we're excited about that. But, you know, there are a lot of resources out there that are virtual now. So very easy to access any time of day, right? You can take a tour virtually, all those kinds of things. So definitely get yourself familiar with the universities that you're interested in early on.
And I want to say you are already doing one of the top things that I would recommend that you do is, you know, doing the things early, doing workshops like this one. Here you are today. If you are a rising junior or rising junior, congratulations. You are taking a very important step in figuring this out early. And that's going to help minimize or diminish your anxiety about this process. So that's what I recommend. The more, you know, kind of workshops that you can be like, okay, let me get a handle on how to do this and what the whole process is, then you're going to understand I can do all these steps. I think it becomes really stressful and there's a lot of anxiety just thinking about the whole thing is like one giant step, and it's not. It's a lot of teeny tiny steps and you can do each of those steps. Each of those steps is not difficult. But yeah, looking at the end result right now seems like it's difficult. So being a rising junior, coming to these sorts of things, congratulations, you're doing one of the major steps in being prepared. Okay, I think we have come to the end here. I really appreciate all of you taking this time. We are so happy that you've joined us, you know, to learn this new information. We hope that we were able to at least give you one new thing. My thing about webinars is if I can walk away learning at least one new thing, then it made that hour worthwhile. So I think there were more than one thing, you know, hopefully more than one thing you learned today, but hopefully this was educational for you and you learned something. Thanks for joining us.